world now, I think, just turned into best of 3 play.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a long day because whoever wins this tournament will have to have played and won, the majority of 11 best of 3 sets, which is more than any other tournament. I remember I played 8 in a row at Worlds 2013, and that was exhausting. So you have to imagine, this is a huge mental battle. 11 best of 3 sets. That's up to 33 games, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how long we're gonna be here either, but I'm ready to, I'm ready to batten down the hatches. Are we about to get into it?
Sounds like we are. I think they're on the battle screen right now, and looks like we've got them loaded up right now.
Awesome. So yeah, as I mentioned before, just to recap, if you're just tuning in, we have Angel's team on the screen right now. He's running a Groudon, Cresselia, Smeargle, Kangaskhan, Xerneas, and Crobat. On Enosh's side, we're going to have a Ferrothorn, a Weavile, a Groudon, Rayquaza, Cresselia, and a Kangaskhan. 2 Mega... double Mega option there for Enosh. I just noticed that actually. Just appealed to me. This is something that is really tricky because with Rayquaza you don't have too much natural bulk when it's not Mega'd. So if people opt to bring both Kangaskhan and Rayquaza to a match, they're kind of sacrificing Rayquaza's ability to tank things like Mega Kangaskhan. But I'm interested to see how it works out.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's also interesting whenever you see a Kangaskhan mirror match because you have to ask, do they run low kick? So with low kick, if you're attacking into a non-invested Kangaskhan, you have a very good chance of getting the one-hit knockout. It's also a question of, do they have inner focus? Because if they do, then you have fake out mind games.
I've never really been in that position. Every time I use inner focus Kang, everybody always just goes to the 50-50.
Yeah,
they both Mega Evolve. That's like the most common thing I run into, I swear.
Right, so this should be interesting. Like you said, the double Mega option here is going to be really interesting because I think Enosh, there's a decent chance we see both coming out.
Yeah, I'd love to. And, alright, we're going to see Angel send out Kangaskhan and Cresselia, get his Mega right on the field, and Enosh going to go with Groudon and Weavile, so we have some fake-out pressure. The Primal and the Mega on the field, and I haven't really been able to tell anymore whether Cresselia's are Trick Room or Icy Wind.
Yeah.
I kind of blame you for that, but and Poke Alex generally.
Yeah, I mean, Poke Alex really started the trend of Icy Wind and Thunder Wave, but I've seen a lot of Trick Room, and I think we're seeing a resurgence of that, and that's a great point, right? That's what makes that a lot harder. You don't know what means of speed control Cresselia is going to go for, and you know it's probably going to have, at least one means.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. But this is, I think, a pretty cool position for Enosh. He has to be wary of inner focus on Kangaskhan here, actually, because if you fake out Kangaskhan and it stays in inner focus, it can get a free power-up punch-off if it's carrying it, or a low kick. Groudon here, puts on a lot of offensive pressure. Kangaskhan and Cresselia both don't like to take fire-type attacks.
We're going to see a fake out from Weavile, and Enosh does actually, or Angel actually chooses to stay in his normal form and get the fake out off on the Groudon, so a pretty neutral turn.
Yeah, and it ends up working out, I would say, a little bit better for Enosh. Their Angel was probably hoping to see the fake out going into Kangaskhan, but instead they just kind of trade. But I think Enosh here has a lot of potential to get the damage off.
So Angel's going to Mega his Kangaskhan here, and this is where all the mind games come in. Weavile going to go for a knockoff on that Cresselia, going to do tons of damage. Gonna knock off a Citrus Berry, and Groudon
faster.
Speed tie on most likely.
I just Mega Evolved, yeah.
Yeah, and gonna do loads of damage. And if Kangaskhan goes for a double edge here, it would have knocked itself out. But it's just gonna go for a power punch, get the Weavile off the field, and have all that pressure now with a +2 Kangaskhan on the field. Now it'll actually outspeed the Groudon, so that's
exactly
pretty beneficial for Angel.
So that, like you pointed out, speed high there because Kangaskhan before Mega Evolves is base 90 and max speed Groudon's also 90. So most likely these players are both running max speed on their both of their Pokemon. But there, the speed tie actually ends up not mattering since Kangaskhan did target the Weavile. Could have actually been a big difference if Kangaskhan went for a double edge onto the Groudon because it could have ensured, it taking less damage there. But I think Enosh definitely takes that trade-off there. He picks up the knockout onto Cresselia. Kangaskhan's very close to being knocked out as well.
Yeah, and the Rayquaza is going to come in here, and a lot of people opt to go with an extreme speed variant of Rayquaza.
Exactly.
So, and even if he doesn't have it, Angel's threatened by that, so it's definitely going to affect how he plays. Something interesting to note is Angel goes into Xerneas here, and seeing something so powerful like Rayquaza, and something that kind of resists Xerneas and Groudon, you wouldn't think to bring a Xerneas in, but a lot of people have been opting for super, super bulky Xerneas. Also, thank you, Conan, for that. Especially, I love his spread, but it's too slow for me.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting position.
Well, that's the other question, right? You just mentioned that Xerneas can be really slow and bulky, but it's base 99, so if you are running max speed, you'll outspeed the Primals. But in this case, we don't know whether Xerneas or Groudon's faster, and that'll be really interesting.
Kangaskhan's going to switch out here, go into Groudon, probably just to soak up an extreme speed, but we're going to see it could bring out the sun, which is already on the field. So now we're pretty much in Arizona weather, super hot.
With the Rayquaza's airlock still up, so technically fire type attacks are.
So technically nobody feels anything.
Yeah,
is what we should really be saying.
There's no heat going out.
I wish they had that somewhere out there. All right, so the Rayquaza is going to Mega Evolve, bring the Delta Stream in, and reduce the effect of stuff like Ice Beam, anything that flying types are weak to.
Yep.
And Rayquaza is going to go for a Dragon Ascent here, most presumably into the Xerneas. Love the animation for that. It's very
awesome.
pretty, yeah. And as I said, super bulky Xerneas. Rayquaza has a monstrous attack stat, only going to do around 60% there to Xerneas.
And we see the Earth Power coming out. It's a special type attack, not the Precipice Blades.
Wow. Xerneas is going to get the Geomancy off and raise both its special attack, special defense, and also its speed. So all three of those.
Yep. Now, you would think that, oh wow, this Xerneas is going to be a really threatening ally. It has +2 and all those stats. But like you pointed out, Rayquaza carries extreme speed very often. And then with that little HP, it's very likely now that all Enosh has to do is go for an extreme speed onto Xerneas and a Earth Power. The special Groudon here is really interesting. We've seen Eruption and Earth Power. A lot of players like to run Precipice Blades because it's a really strong physical fighting type attack that hits both Pokemon. But in this case, Enosh is opting to just go for max speed and just get as much damage off through Eruption, and Earth Power is great for the mirror matchup with Groudon.
We're going to see Kangaskhan come back here on Angel's side and presumably protect from the Xerneas. He's taking that Groudon out of there because he doesn't want to risk the speed tie, which in my opinion is a fantastic play. He also wants to possibly bring in fake out pressure, but the Groudon is going to go for the Earth Power here. He might also be trying to call a protect there, but the Kangaskhan's going to go down, and the Groudon's going to come right back into pretty much Xerneas and Groudon versus Rayquaza and Groudon. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in the same position as before, but Sun's up now, right? The Xerneas here is going to have to try to go for a double protect if it wants to avoid being knocked out. And even if that's the case, Enosh still has a third Pokemon in the back. And he's had a very dominating game thus far. I think he played that really well. He basically wasted Angel's turn, and Angel actually realizes he doesn't have much, doesn't want to reveal any more information, knowing it's a best of 3 and forfeit. So Enosh will take game 1.
Yeah, and you got to remember the local aspect of these players playing each other is important, because I'm pretty sure that Angel ran the same team at the PC that he was at, and he might have had a couple of tech changes, but Enosh was able to scout out a lot of the items and the speed tiers and everything. So Angel there trying to preserve information, maybe that he has a slower Groudon, or maybe that he's a special variant now instead of the mix that he had at the PC. But what do you think Angel needs to do to adjust?
I think it's tough. First of all, Enosh was able to take that game so commandingly because I thought he had a pretty solid lead matchup in terms of damage output. Enosh's team really likes to threaten with quick damage as fast as possible. That Groudon max speed with Eruption means you can hit as quickly as possible. So, for example, if Angel has Wide Guard on the Smeargle, I think that could be pretty helpful. Otherwise, he's going to just want to prevent damage. Crobat Super Fang actually, cuts that down to 50%. Suddenly, Eruption's damage is going to be decreased. So, if anything, that Groudon he really wants to shut down, but obviously he's going to have to watch out for Rayquaza. Angel wasn't able to touch it that last game.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about Enosh's team structure is everything on his team has so much presence. Pretty much excluding Cresselia. Weavile has good coverage. Ferrothorn is able to cover the option of stuff like Kyogre and everything. But what we're going to see here is Angel lead Kangaskhan and Crobat, and on Enosh's side we're going to have Weavile and Rayquaza.
So some adjustments there from both players. We do see the Crobat here around, and I like that on Angel's end, obviously trying to reduce that Eruption damage, but Enosh seems to also have changed his lead up, and it's looking solid here because once again, you have the Fake Out Mind Games, but Weavile also can just threaten immediately with an Icicle Crash onto Crobat. I'm not sure how invested Angel's Crobat is and whether it can take that attack or not, but this first turn will be interesting because Kangaskhan has the ability to power up Punch Weavile. Could also choose to Fake Out Rayquaza, and Crobat might want to go for a Tailwind. It's kind of in an awkward position because the Super Fang here doesn't matter as much as, say, against an Eruption Groudon. So I think both players, want to play safely here, but Enosh definitely has, I think, the upper end in terms of just being able to do a little bit more.
Yeah, and we're going to see the Mega Rayquaza come out. No Kangaskhan from Enosh yet. It doesn't feel like he needs it, probably. Rayquaza worked out last game for him, so Delta Stream going to come in. That might actually mean that he's probably not going for an Icicle Crash because it's not going to knock out the Crobat. But we're going to see a Fake Out without Mega Evolving here into the Rayquaza and a Tailwind from Angel, so he will now be the faster Kangaskhan and faster Pokemon in general.
He does go for the Icicle Crash, but it looks like he's going to target down Kangaskhan, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
And getting that good damage off is nice. It doesn't even do 50% though, which is a little bit unfortunate, but Rayquaza is a powerful Pokemon. It still offers a lot of pressure, and I don't really think it's in knockout range, barring a Super Fang. So I think Enosh might actually have to play a little bit more defensively here.
Yeah.
Angel definitely took the initiative there.
Definitely. That was a great turn for Angel. Originally, I said, like, the leads looked pretty good for Enosh, but, you know, I was kind of expecting maybe to see an Icicle Crash there on Crobat. Enosh perhaps expecting a power-up punch onto Weavile, saying, okay, well, if you go for the fake out onto Rayquaza, I'll get guaranteed damage off, and if you go for the power-up punch, I'll just double up on your Kangaskhan and knock it out before you can do anything. So I think Angel gets the better trade-off there. That was probably one of the worst-case scenarios for Enosh, and to see Kangaskhan hang out with still over 50% is pretty impressive.
Rayquaza is going to switch out here. I definitely felt like Rayquaza was the most threatening thing on the field right there.
Yep.
With Super Fang and Double Edge. And now going into Ferrothorn, I think is a fantastic switch. With the Iron Barb's ability, he's going to be able to possibly get some chip damage onto that Kangaskhan. And this could be a huge read for Enosh. So, Baby going to hop out of the pouch. Kangaskhan going to get that that Parental Bond. We're going to see Super Fang into Ferrothorn here. And exactly that. He was definitely targeting down the Rayquaza. Kangaskhan going to use the return into the Ferrothorn.
Great read there by Enosh.
An excellent defensive switch. That's great that he had the ability to do that in Ferrothorn. That residual damage is going to be really killer, though, and Weavile going to go for an attack. I'm definitely into the Kangaskhan. It's just telegraphed. We're going to see the Icicle Crash go right into the Kangaskhan, pick up the knockout, so Lucky didn't miss. And now it's a Crobat on the field versus two Pokemon that really aren't threatened by it.
Yeah, that was a great play by Enosh there. He stayed in with Weavile, which obviously doesn't want to take a power-up punch because that's a one-hit KO, and it gets Kangaskhan to +2 attack if Weavile is carrying Focus Sash. So that was kind of a risky play there, because if Angel just went for the obvious play, power-up punch, Super Fang, then he gets a +2 Kang with 2 more turns of Tailwind. Instead, Enosh is able to knock out the Kangaskhan. He still has the Weavile and the Ferrothorn, but it's still kind of a tough position because Angel's got a couple more turns of Tailwind going for him.
Yeah, and the Groudon coming in here is great because with the Tailwind up, he's going to be able to go for stuff like Eruption, and there's not really much that Enosh can do to stop that. One of the things about, Ray Ogre being, great is that you can switch into Kyogre.
Exactly.
But with Ray Groudon, you're switching into either a Groudon or a Rayquaza, which still takes a lot of damage from Eruption.
Yep.
And we're going to see exactly that. He does switch into the Rayquaza, bringing that Delta Stream right back. So that is going to neuter the Sun Boost. We're going to see Super Fang into the Weavile, just to break the Sash, really. And Groudon's going to go for an Eruption, so the Weavile is definitely going to go down here. And the damage output on that Rayquaza is marginal. Oh my goodness, that was so small.
That was nothing.
It's Assault Vest.
Yep.
Absolutely has to be Assault Vest.
We are seeing, I think, AV Rayquaza, which is pretty awesome because Rayquaza's Mega typically carry Focus Sash, Life Orb, or Choice Band, and to see an Assault Vest one right now is really interesting.
I'm going to get so much crap from all my friends because every single time they were like telling me about damage calcs, they're like, well, what if it's an Assault Vest Ray? I was like, I'm never going to run into an Assault Vest
Who would
Ray.
expect to see that?
Oh, and there it is. What do you know? And it's 5-0. That's incredible. Wow. That did so little damage.
It did nothing, yeah. And that was the best play, I think, on both players' end. If you're Angel, you know that Weaviles don't typically carry Protect, so you just get as much damage off on the... Weavile could have Focus Sash, so just break the Sash, get Eruption off, do damage. But this ends up working out really nicely for Enosh. He's stalling out Tailwind quite well, and it should expire after this turn. Rayquaza's in now, and neither Crobat nor Groudon actually threaten Rayquaza too much. Because of Rayquaza's typing, Groudon can't really touch it with Ground-type attacks, and even Fire-type attacks do not do very much damage against it.
And he's going to protect here, probably scouting for a Waterfall, and Ferrothorn going to protect too. It was interesting for me that Enosh brought in the Ferrothorn, but I imagine he has Groudon and doesn't want to, leave it wide open for damage. Super Fang going to go into Rayquaza. Very smart turn. I told you, I mean, if it's Assault Vest, it has to have the coverage move.
Absolutely, but we see Waterfall kind of the Rayquaza tech move there to beat the Groudon, but that was a great turn, I thought, by Angel. He actually now does have the ability to switch Groudon back out, and of course, Rayquaza can only use Waterfall right now because Delta Stream is up. Of course, if Groudon's Sun is up, then it can't. So that was really nicely done there by Angel's end. He just, he might suspect that Rayquaza has Waterfall, so he plays it as safely as possible. Enosh tries to catch him off guard. He knows it's best of 3. He hasn't revealed it yet, but unfortunately doesn't get it. I do believe that we did see Tailwind expire there, though.
Yeah, and that was really good. I think Enosh kind of weighed that decision. Like, all right, if he protects his Groudon this turn, he's going to leave it open to getting, attacked next turn. So I really think it's on Enosh to possibly call a switch or something, because that Crobat, nothing's going to stop that Crobat from going for another Tailwind. So I do think Angel's in great position here.
Definitely. He's managed the speed game a lot better this time around. But yeah, it should be interesting here since we are seeing a Xerneas switch into a Ferrothorn.
Yeah, and I think that's where Enosh gets the, the guts factor. Did he just gyro this Xerneas?
Right.
Do you know if Tailwind is going to boost the power of Gyro Ball?
It does, I believe.
It will, alright, yeah. And the waterfall into the Xerneas, the super bulky Xerneas, that was a critical hit, people. And the Gyro Ball into the Xerneas, which was, pretty much the only thing he could do.
But it survives!
Wow, that was incredible.
Yeah, I think that Xerneas, it's got to be at least pretty bulky here.
Yeah, and I'm possibly not as fast either, just because that damage from the Gyro Ball was, pitiful. I'm sorry.
But I think, honestly, if you're Angel, you might have wanted that to knock out, because if you get that knockout, then Groudon gets to come in with 3 full turns of Tailwind, then you can just Super Fang an Eruption, and, Rayquaza can't get an attack off before the Eruption, and even though it's Assault Vest with some back up, and full HP Groudon, that Eruption probably picks up that knockout. So even though that Xerneas hangs on, that's actually, I think, better for Enosh, because this next turn is going to be kind of awkward in the sense that Rayquaza, most likely, you want to go for an Extreme Speed onto Xerneas, and then Crobat, at most damage-wise, can Taunt or Super Fang. Either of those being too helpful in this case.
Rayquaza is going to opt to go for the Extreme Speed. Pretty cut and dry play. Get the Xerneas off of the field. Didn't have much to lose there. We're assuming we're going to see the Crobat go for the Super Fang here. Going to avoid with the Ferrothorn, and Leech Seed is going to go off, which, is indicative of the fact that he wants to use his Ferrothorn for the rest of the game. And he wants it to survive, so he can possibly, use it against Crobat in the late game, get the Iron Barbs damage and stuff like that. At least that's what the mindset I'm assuming is.
Right.
And Groudon's going to come back in here. What do you think that's going to do for him?
So, I'm kind of surprised that we saw the Super Fang onto Ferrothorn, perhaps predicting a switch for Enosh's end, because, Groudon obviously can just one-hit KO Ferrothorn with Eruption. And so this is an interesting position because there are only 2 turns of Tailwind left now for Angel to take advantage of. Sure, Ferrothorn got the Leech Seed off there, but it's still going to feint to an Eruption at any point. So I think if you're Angel here, you're just going to Super Fang the Rayquaza and Eruption. You could predict the Groudon to switch in, though, and go for a Precipice Blades, and that, if you're carrying it, we don't know what ground-type attack Groudon has yet on Angel's end. But yeah, I think Super Fang onto Rayquaza might have been a little bit safer, but once again, Angel could have been predicting the Ferrothorn to switch out here. So I think if you're Enosh here, you definitely protect Ferrothorn and you switch Rayquaza out, or you can stay in and go for an attack, but that's obviously a little bit risky since you can't even Waterfall at this point.
Yeah, the sun being up is going to make a huge difference here because it kind of nullifies that Assault Vest right there.
Yeah,
he gets the +1 boost. Yeah, pretty much a +1 boost. And what we have here is now, the situation of what exactly is Enosh going to do. The Ferrothorn is going to go for Protect. I thought he could have gone a little bit gutsier and maybe Gyro Balled into the Crobat, but that is pretty risky.
Right.
We're going to see the Super Fang and Eruption. I'm pretty sure this should knock out now that he has the Sun. Going to pick up the knockout, yeah.
For a second, I was like...
I know you were hopeful,
yeah.
But it's not that bulky. It's still a Rayquaza.
I think, so if you're Enosh at this point, Crobat actually can't beat your Groudon because Crobat Super Fang, it can win if it's at 1 HP, but there's no, factor to bring it down to 1 HP. Yeah, exactly.
And we gotta get rid of everything else on the field and leave Crobat, and you should win.
Exactly. So I think Enosh, that's what he's going for because he knows he's got Earth Power on his Groudon. So if Angel's Groudon isn't bulky and you get the 1-hit KO, that could be huge. But it's still in an awkward position because Tailwind is still up. This is, I believe, the last turn of Tailwind. However, now you have to kind of predict because if Groudon decides not to protect here and Angel goes for an Eruption and he just knocks out Ferrothorn, but then Groudon survives, gets the Earth Power off, and then Crobat can't win. So this is a pretty big turn. I think it's basically the game decisive turn. Otherwise, if Groudon does protect and you go for the Precipice Blades, then Ferrothorn can get the Gyro Ball off against Crobat, and that plus the Leech Seed might actually be enough to pick up the knockout. And if that's the case, then you won't get that extra Super Fang damage or Tailwind damage.
So it all comes down to those 50-50s.
Exactly.
The highlight of the format.
I think it would have been nicer to see a taunt onto the Ferrothorn earlier on if Angel's carrying it, but he didn't go for the taunt, and he, once again went for the Super Fang play. And we do see the Super Fang
into the Groudon, which definitely means a Precipice Blades is probably coming out.
And it connects.
There it is. And that should be game.
Very well played.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was... Well, first thing is that was much closer. Angel had to, really use really play to his outs. And, with the Crobat getting knocked out here, it's just an eruption, and that should be a game.
Yep.
Enosh knows this. I think Angel managed, as you said, the speed game much better, and kept himself in a great position. And even though that Xerneas didn't get knocked out, he still figured, I'll just let it get knocked out this turn, bring in the Groudon, and manage my win cons at the end of the game. So
Exactly.
great read on his end, and that's why he's a top level player.
Right, and it came down to a 50-50 there. Basically, I think if your Groudon protects there, it gets the Gyro Ball. We did see a critical hit there. Not sure how invested both Pokemon are, but at that point, you're hoping Gyro Ball knocks out Crobat, and then Groudon gets it. So, yeah, that was a really, really close one. But, for how one-sided Game 1 seemed, Angel managed that second game fantastically. And the main change was he got rid of Cresselia. Cresselia is normally a Pokemon that you want on the field for a very long time, but it went down. That was one of the fastest Cresselia knockouts I've really ever seen.
Yeah. That's really important because that indicates that Angel's Cresselia might not actually have too much bulk, and we've seen that recently just because Cresselia needs to get a little bit faster to outspeed Groudon for a skill swap.
Yep.
In some cases. In other cases, they just want to outspeed something like Smeargle, maybe just to get the Icy Wind off. Or just
even Safeguard.
Yeah, or even Safeguard. Yeah, that's something I've seen a lot too. I know that from the match I had earlier today with Angel, my Bronzong's Gyro Ball with 76 attack did about half to the Crobat, if that's any indicator to how bulky it is.
Yeah.
But I do think that I really feel like Enosh's team is just putting on so much offensive pressure, and I do like the Crobat. The Crobat came out and managed the game really well, and even though it's not putting out damage, it's supporting the team really well. It's a great passer,
In terms of adjustments, I think the next question, we have to kind of look at is, what does Enosh kind of do? Because I feel like Angel brought this new Tailwind strategy, and that's really what won him that game, being able to manage the speed. Enosh's Weavile put in a lot of work that first game because it got the knockoff onto Cresselia, which did so much damage. But, that last game, it didn't do very much, despite him still actually, making that prediction. It hung around for a turn longer, but it wasn't able to put on as much offensive pressure. Kind of just, got a Fake Out off, got some damage off, and that was that. Meanwhile, from Enosh's end, we haven't seen the Cresselia come out yet, and Cresselia obviously being one Pokemon that can mitigate Tailwind because of Icy Wind and Thunder Wave, or even Trick Room. Those are all pretty good counters to whatever is using Tailwind.
I'm pretty sure that that one of the most important Pokemon on Angel's team is feeling left out here, and that's definitely the most dominating Pokemon in this format, Smeargle.
Yep.
I'm missing it. The whole time, I think that Enosh has, been using his Weavile both as pressure to keep the Smeargle out of the game, and as with fake out pressure and everything. But I think this is definitely the opening, if there is one, for Angel to bring Smeargle, and I'd love to see how he tries to use it, especially with all the movesets that are running around. As you said earlier, there's some Wide Guard running around. Follow Me, Crafty Shield's been really good. You should know all about that.
Yeah. Crafty Shield is a great move, but we'll see whether he brings it or not. I think the scary thing of bringing Smeargle is it often is there and it does a lot, or maybe just gets knocked out by Kangaskhan. So,
that too.
The question is also, does Enosh end up bringing his Kangaskhan?
Well, that's why I mentioned it too, because without with Rayquaza being so pivotal in the matchup, do you think he's even going to bring his Kangaskhan? We're going to see a Weavile Groudon lead from Enosh. Definitely, it's the same thing as Game 1. And Angel going to be leading Kangaskhan Xerneas. Kangaskhan Xerneas, awesome lead just because you have Fake Out and the ability to go for a Geomancy.
Yep.
And as I mentioned earlier, with the super bulky Xerneas, you can really lead that into Groudon now. He also noticed that it was a special Groudon, so that might play it. Yeah.
Right, normally against this lead, if you're running physical Groudon, then you can just go for the safe Precipice Blades trade-off. But, that's not the case here. But, this is still a interesting position, I think, for both players, because that Groudon obviously puts on so much pressure with Eruption immediately, and that's what happened for first game, right? Enosh got so much damage off this one Eruption, and Angel couldn't really recover from it. So here, if you're Enosh, you can go for maybe the safe Fake Out play onto Xerneas and just go for an Eruption. But of course, Kangaskhan on Angel's end can Fake Out, so you might trade Fake Outs there. But like you said here, I think if you're Angel, you might want to get that Geomancy up as quickly as possible. But he's actually going to switch out, not really wanting to take any risks and realizing it's not great to do that against a Groudon.
Yeah, or just the threat of knockoff really is going to prevent you from wanting to go for Geomancy, because if you do get knocked off, you're going to get stuck in Geomancy for a second turn.
That's a great point, yeah.
Weavile is going to do exactly that, knock off the Crobat's mental herb, which is interesting information. He's going to probably want to note that for something like Top Cut. Not that he has taunt or anything, but
right.
The switch into Crobat here, definitely smart. Kangaskhan stopped the damage, but once again, now he's risking that speed tie because he didn't Mega Evolve, if he's even, max speed. Crobat coming in here is good because he has the ability to go for a Tailwind. And, you know, kind of the fun thing about this format is all the free switching is really important. So he might actually be setting himself up for what's going to get knocked out and what's going to come in.
Yeah, and so this next turn, pretty interesting because Crobat, like you said, is going to want to get that Tailwind up, which is what we saw in the first game. Enosh showing that so far it hasn't brought in Cresselia yet, and not having that on the field means that once you get the Tailwind up, you can take advantage of that, at least for a couple turns until you force a switch out or something switches back in. So this next turn is going to be pretty big in terms of both players trying to regain momentum and positioning.
So Weavile is going to double back, go into Ferrothorn here for Enosh. Kangaskhan this turn going to Mega Evolve, which means he's staying in and risking that speed tie possibly again. But probably needs the Kangaskhan, and he can't really switch in to a possible Earth Power. Super Fang going to go off into the Groudon, which means that it will be in double edge range, but the Groudon wins again, either indicating that it's faster or Angel's having a bad day.
Right.
Crobat's going to survive with the Super Fang doing good work there. And was that frustration? That was return. That sounded like return.
Yeah, yeah.
The return going to knock out the Groudon. So we do see a happy Kangaskhan. And what do you think of the positioning here?
That's a big survival there, I think, on Crobat. Of course, Rayquaza could come in and threaten with an extreme speed, and it looks like it's going to want to do that. But it just makes things a little bit more difficult. Earlier I actually said that Xerneas might have wanted to prioritize Geomancy, but I like that Angel didn't do that because he knows that Ferrothorn most likely is in the back, and now Enosh has revealed that. So just
Moonblast it.
Yeah.
It's 2.
Yeah, exactly. But with the Assault Vest now, Rayquaza can most likely take those Fairy-type attacks from the Xerneas in the back. So Kangaskhan might be inclined to go for a return, but it's also a tricky turn because you could lose both of your Pokemon through an Extreme Speed and a Gyro Ball. Of course, Crobats carry Quick Guard a lot of the times. We're not sure whether Angels here is carrying Quick Guard or not, but that does stop the priority Extreme Speed. But if you do go for the Quick Guard, Rayquaza could just read into that and go for an Extreme Speed onto Kangaskhan, and you could still lose both of your Pokemon.
Yeah, and this is where the Kangaskhan's not having double edge really factors in, because double edge could have done way more damage to the Rayquaza and put him in a better position, but he already revealed that he has returned. So he's going to get that Kangaskhan out of there, preserve it both for the fake out and possibly for the late game. And Groudon going to come in to possibly soak up either a Gyro Ball or maybe an attack from the Rayquaza. I'm pretty sure that Rayquaza is going to go for an Extreme Speed right into that Crobat, get it off the field. He might have known that there was no threat of Quick Guard. It's a couple rounds in. He might have been able to scout some information.
Yep.
And the Ferrothorn are going to go for a Gyro Ball. I'm going to do Diddly.
Yeah, so this is actually really tricky still because Enosh chose not to Mega Evolve. Even if he Mega Evolved, the point is that he still has Airlock, so he can actually Waterfall right now and Mega Evolve and Waterfall. Kangaskhan, of course, now does start in with Fake Out pressure, but one of the bigger issues we mentioned earlier is that Groudon doesn't have a way to really touch Rayquaza, so now you kind of have to predict, like, is he going to stay in with Groudon and try to pick up a knockout on a Ferrothorn? Is Enosh going to switch out into Groudon? Because if you're Angel here, you definitely don't want that Waterfall coming out from Groudon because even though the sun is up, all Rayquaza has to do is Mega Evolve and get it off. So this Rayquaza is looking pretty threatening. Ferrothorn's in a pretty bad position. You can't go for anything unless it's predicting Groudon to go for a non-fire type attack. And of course, Angel might actually go for the Precipice Blades read because he knows that Ferrothorn might want to switch out.
And Angel's going to double back with his Groudon and bring in his Xerneas, probably just to get a Power-Up Punch. Is he going to Power-Up Punch his own Xerneas? I do think he is.
That'd be interesting, but
it's a good opportunity too.
Yeah, you know that the Rayquaza here, however, can't protect, right? Because that's Assault Vest. So Angel knows he's going to be taking some damage here, but we do see the Weavile come back in.
Might have just been counting his losses. He's just like, what's going to happen here? I'm going to get the damage. He probably knows that because it's Assault Vest, it's a non-boosting item.
Right.
He's not going to take too much damage from whatever it's going to go for anyway. Well, at least not relevant damage compared to something like Life Orb or Choice Band. Kangaskhan is going to go for the Fake Out right into the Rayquaza, not even worry about any attacking move that Rayquaza could have gone for, and so he's not going to go for that crazy gutsy Power-Up Punch play.
Right.
I do think that would have been fun.
Yeah, so the other read the last turn that could have, Enosh could have made was Gyro Balling into the Groudon slot, predicting that Xerneas switch in, but we already know that Xerneas can take that. Yeah, it actually would have been better because a Ferrothorn against a Kangaskhan Xerneas is pretty good, but if you get that read wrong, you just lose your Ferrothorn, and at that point, Ferrothorn is so key against Kangaskhan and Xerneas. So I actually really like Angel's position right now because Xerneas can, it threatens Geomancy. Of course, he might not want to because of the knockoff threat, like you mentioned earlier, but he's got Dazzling Gleam and Moonblast both as options, and Kangaskhan can power up much Weavile. But Enosh does get a Fake Out Dragon Ascent turn here potentially.
Yeah, fake out Dragon Ascent, or even possibly busting out something like Feint. We are going to see Enosh actually double back his Rayquaza into his Ferrothorn, which is good for him. He has positioning now against the Xerneas, but Weavile going to go for a fake out into the Xerneas, and Angel I think made a great read here.
Here we go. Is it pop onto Weavile? It is. That just might be the game-deciding play right there, because Enosh was basically what he was trying to do there was bait out the attack onto the Ferrothorn, and so that way Kangaskhan takes so much damage from the recoil, or not the recoil, the Iron Barbs, that it might be an Extreme Speed KO range. Extreme Speed, of course, having higher priority than Sucker Punch, so you just get guaranteed damage off. And then you can get the Gyro Ball off against Xerneas. Although I'm not really sure what Enosh's endgame plan was here, because you know that the Groudon is the biggest threat, and so in order to beat Groudon, you need to get the Rayquaza in after Groudon's out so you can Waterfall it. But even if Enosh got the kind of return damage off there wasn't... I don't think... He was in a pretty bad position, but we don't see a Sucker Punch come out here.
I was thinking this was over, but it honestly depends on if the Moonblast knocks out the Assault Vest, and I don't really know that it would. He is going to go for a Dragon Ascent here, and I was thinking to myself, like, all he has to do is double the Rayquaza, because he knows it doesn't have Protect.
Right.
Angel most likely going to Moonblast right into this -1 special defense Rayquaza. Should pick up the knockout because it doesn't have Assault Vest anymore. I saw 3 there, and I was like, wait a minute, did it live?
Right.
But the Ferrothorn going to go for Gyro Ball right into the Xerneas. Not going to pick up the knockout, and he has Growl in the back, so that's definitely a sealed up match. Even with the critical hit to try and turn things in his favor. Sorry.
Just gravy on top of that one.
Yeah.
But that was really, really well done by Angel.
Absolutely.
And I was kind of surprised to see Enosh not bring the adjustments to Tailwind. I thought Cresselia would have been a pretty nice pick there, because you can start Icy Winding and Thunder Waving. And instead, once again, we kind of see similar game to the second one. In that Angel was able to just set up Tailwind, but it was really well done this time around because he kind of baited with the Xerneas. You know, when you see Xerneas, it's tempting to just go for a Geomancy, but Angel could serve that really, really well as we see Eruption just knock out Ferrothorn.
Absolutely.
And it forced Enosh into a position, because Enosh's team is honestly really weak to the Groudon outside of the Rayquaza and Enosh's own Groudon, but Angel was able to take care of that Groudon so early on with the double up with Super Fang in return. So by picking up that knockout, Angel knew, okay, now this is much easier for me. All I have to do is basically predict a switch or two, or not even. I'm ahead now. I just have to make sure Rayquaza isn't in and gets the chance to Waterfall me, because if not, then I can Eruption and take care of all of Rayquaza's partners.
Yeah, I definitely think that confidence after the Groudon was out is something that you noted is very important there, because he was able to go for the Power Punch into the Weavile, and that was really the turn where it was like, all right, yeah, that's done, because now he threatened the knockout potential onto the Rayquaza. Yeah. And that was really huge. One of the things that I felt Enosh's team wasn't able to do is use Rayquaza to take out Xerneas. A lot of people opt to go with like Helping Hand, and without bringing Cresselia, you can't threaten like a Helping Hand Dragon Ascent into the Xerneas. So I felt like the Rayquaza was used so much more defensively than it was offensively, and just really to pick up stuff that was already down into extreme speed range.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point, and I think it's also kind of good to note that, like, because Groudon wasn't physical, suddenly it just made it harder to really touch the Xerneas, and Angel conserved it really well. He didn't go for that Geomancy, because remember in that first game that Xerneas did go for the Geomancy. He took so much damage, and then it just fainted. So this time around, Angel didn't go for a Geomancy at all in the third game, but he pulled it off because he knew, okay, my end game is conserving this Xerneas for the Rayquaza, and Groudon basically beats everything else. So Angel played that really, really well. Like, he knew the threats that he had to take care of. He didn't care about the Weavile and the Ferrothorn, because those are so frail, so weak, and Ferrothorn's a Pokemon that likes to stay in games and just like drag it on by getting Leech Seeds off and Gyro Balls, and that's why you always see it with the Rayquaza Kyogre combination. But that doesn't work out so well when both players are using Groudon, because now it forces you to either protect, make a crazy prediction, or switch out.
One of the things I really loved about this set is it highlights that even though something like Groudon, Xerneas, Cresselia, Smeargle, Kangaskhan...
What's up? Okay.
Oh, we're going to break?
Yeah. Go finish yours and then we'll...
Oh, well, all right, so really quickly, I just wanted to say that, all right, so Big Six is popular, people counter it, and Angel still used it and was like, nah, I don't even care that you have counters, and just won anyway. So that's one of the things that Big Six highlights. Like, you can really win with just excellent